amazing guests with us today, Ben Keal from Private Communities, Sarah Carbonell, Sales and Marketing Director of Amblebrook, and Robert Coas, the founder and CEO of Smart Touch Interactive. Today, we're going to dive into adult active communities, residential marketing and programs and marketing services like private communities and how they support active adult communities and marketing programs. So to lead us off, Ben, tell us a little about yourself. How did you get involved in this industry?
Well, I'm about to celebrate my 11th year with privatecommunities.com, a website that hopefully most of these listeners know, but if you don't, learn more today. I'm the Director of Sales and Operations. I started with a sales background in construction and data information with a large national company, had a tenure for about 11 years, and moved into a director role with that company, and was intrigued by the real estate aspect. Coming out of the recession in 2008 and 9, there was a lot of change that was occurring in this industry. And our site is basically a third-party portal site. We are a specific niche market where we're attracting a more mature buyer who's looking for an active lifestyle. So we always say that we find them at the top of the funnel and help push them down into a sales possibility. We are also now known as PCR. PCR stands for Private Communities Registry. And very simply, we were founded before Google in 1996. Our site was live and indexed. And again, we help connect the consumer that's doing active searching for keywords around active adult, pickleball, you name it. We pull traffic in for that consumer and help connect them with folks like Sarah and her team.
Excellent. Well, that's a perfect segue to Sarah. How'd you get involved in Amblebrook, a active adult community outside of Gettysburg, Pennsylvania? What led you to this field?
Well, I started my career off as a marketing manager with Pulte Homes, which also owns Del Webb. Really got to understand the different buyer profiles of that point in my career. And then come the housing crisis in 2008, moved into a regional marketing role for Beazer Homes, stayed there for a while, and then went to the public sector, worked for the government for about 8 years, which was kind of a unique plot change there, but was able to understand different demographics, and then also just, really see how to work with all different levels of leadership. And I realized at the time that I also still loved marketing and specifically home building. So was presented this opportunity with Crown Communities back in 2019 and started a career there, starting up Amblebrook from the ground up. And so I've been loving it ever since.
Excellent. And Robert, how about yourself? How did you get hooked up with both Ben and Sarah over the years?
Well, I personally have been involved in real estate marketing for the last 25 years of my career. And I first came across private communities actually in the 2000s, working with some developers in South Carolina, which were a great fit. And even back then, we had visibility because the company that I worked for, in which I was a minority partner, was also focused around the same concept of bringing CRM and technology along with digital marketing to drive residential demand generation and sales. And so even back then we had visibility and had proof that buyers were actually, just like Ben said, they could come through the sales funnel and we were able to validate the media buy, which, today it is matching back as one of, the most important things that you want to validate as a marketer to optimize your media buys and your marketing plans. And so we've been fans of private community since. And so we came across the opportunity. We've had a relationship with Crown Communities since 2017. And I believe it was 2021, we were recommended to Sarah's group up in Pennsylvania, and we interviewed and got the job to come in as a digital partner along with another company that we partner with that does the branding. But nonetheless, at the time, Sarah had actually mentioned that they were already on private communities. It was something that we were recommending. I've had other experiences with Ben with which we were able to validate success. And from like an all lines in approach, which is our marketing strategy, these type of websites where buyers go to be able to find a lot of information. If they're not committed to a location in specific, they can explore 5 or 6 websites and have a very efficient experience. And so we recommended it. And ironically enough, as we dove deeper into the data, we actually had validated right off the get-go some matchbacks. And so we've been fans ever since. And you know, we are committed at least to continuing the program with private communities as we continue to validate and get matchbacks on a quarterly basis.
Excellent. And that kind of gets into a little bit more, Ben, about private communities. You know, what are the advantages that private communities offers residential communities like Amblebrook, and why would they choose them to partner?
Well, it's interesting. Amblebrook is a great case study for us because I believe they're one of the only Pennsylvania communities we have. There's other competitors in your market, Sarah, that we've been chasing and have conversations currently active with. But we are a portal site, and we are just part of an overall marketing. You know, Robert manages a lot of client accounts where they may have a large ad spend, a small budget, they may have specific needs. We always try to fit into a model that we're going to help pull in a consumer who's starting their journey, as well as those that are active. I mean, as we all know, most of us know, COVID changed the game. Our buying cycle over the years, we would always tout as being an 18-month buying cycle from the beginning of the engagement through to the end of the sales cycle. We've had stories of 30 days in a cloud of dust, and there's a brand new buyer within the community. So our opportunity to fulfill a need is connect with an age qualified consumer, especially if it's a 55 plus age restricted community, and then match a demographic profile and data that suggests that this consumer is a fit for the community. Do they want to move into that community? And interesting enough, the feeder markets that we're driving for Amblebrook are that Northeast Wealth Corridor, the New Yorks within Pennsylvania, the New Jerseys, the Marylands, but they're also the North Carolinas and the Floridas. And those are the halfbacks or the folks that decide to move farther away from grandkids. And at the end of the day, the decision changes where they want to get closer to home, and they start looking for a community that fits the profile. And sure enough, a minitized community like Amblebrook is the perfect fit. They have the resort style feel, and then they connect with the grandkids within a short drive. So that's our guess. Hopefully Sarah can validate that, but that's where I'll leave it.
Well, Sarah, being at the inception of Amblebrook, what brought you to private communities, and why have they been such a valued partner?
Well, like Robert said, he started with us in 2021, and while we had already been on private communities, it came to us from another entity. We saw success right away. We saw leads filter in from private communities, which then, of course, contributed to tours and then sales. And then when we brought Smart Touch in and we made some modifications with our collaboration with private communities, you know, we only saw those numbers increase. And even through COVID, you know, our data shows that our buyer profile takes, you know, sometimes up to 8 visits before they convert. And so being that it's a lifestyle community, we leverage a lot of different things. We leverage research that we get from, for example, private communities, the report that they provide of, you know, the top amenities, top activities, and we integrate that into our offerings and then in our programming, essentially. And we leverage those events and those activities to bring more people back. And so that then contributes to that sales cycle and ultimately conversion into a sale. So, you know, it's been a really great, you know, partnership with private communities via Smart Touch, and we really see a lot of value there.
Well, Robert, to you, you know, as we're getting ready for 2024 and marketers and communities are looking to revamp their 2024 budget, where does private communities fit in the overall strategy when constructing these marketing programs?
It's one of the first choices, like, just in the marketplace, at least for new home marketing, your two brands that have listings, audiences, realtor.com, zillow.com, right behind that is new home source, but this is lifestyle, and private communities has an audience that's been following them for multiple years. Like Ben said, some of these guys subscribe 2 or 3 years ahead of time. They go visit multiple communities in different locations, and so we find great success with this specific niche with private communities, because they're also not just provide the listings and the audience, but they also have a great email marketing program in which we're able to utilize the list to get our own acquisition emails. And we had tremendous success, always had. And so it's the right fit. And that's what I would recommend, as one of the principal listing websites for a community that's active adult as well as resort real estate, right? Resort real estate is also kind of a category, because some communities, even though it's age targeted, they may not want to declare, that they're
Sure.
55 plus, but they're age targeted. So I think it fits a pretty wide demographic that's 40 plus, that has the acquisition power to now live in a perhaps a forever home or a destination community that has a lot of lifestyle to offer, which is what Amblebrook is today.
Well, I know we kind of look at active adult communities as a niche, but with this growing population and active adults with baby boomers and the following generations, this seems to be becoming more and more in vogue with a blossoming uh, pre-retiree and pre-retiree populations. So, Sarah, in your experience over the last decade or so, what are some trends you're seeing in the active adult communities when it comes to maybe amenities or the consumption of information?
Sure. Well, I'll start with the amenities. We find that the number one amenity is walking. So the walking trails are huge, and that's been consistent for quite some time from the beginning of Del Webb. Walking has always been the number one activity, and then followed by pickleball is another one, right? That's swept the nation for many years, and it's starting to get even more popular today. But I think that in terms of a trend, if you look at those, at least those two amenities, the trend is going into health and wellness. What types of activities, amenities, programs, what types of things could you incorporate into your community to make living there better? And so, everybody's after the fountain of youth, right? And so that's no different for our active adult buyer. This is the time that they're exploring new interests. I have a colleague that says to me, this is the most unencumbered time of their lives, and it's true. They're not carting kids around. They're not, they have grandkids that they could give back, and so they're really looking for social opportunities, connection. This is huge. There is a study out there. I can't recall exactly which one it was, but it was just talking about that people live longer when they are social and they have opportunities to that encourage them to be social with others. There's also, a show right now, and Dan Buettner's Blue Zones book, and now it's on Netflix, right? That, how to age well and age past 100. This is continuing to be a trend of really how can we continue to help everybody, live longer and live better. So that's at least what we've taken into consideration, strong consideration, when we developed Amblebrook and the amenities that we put in place. And it was only like it's reaffirmed by private communities and research, especially that they put out as well.
Well, Ben, what is private communities research showing? I know you talked earlier about shifting demographics from regions. Do these amenities that Sarah was talking about hold up? Are you seeing any different trends?
Those have been trending exactly online for years now. We started at least 7 years ago, just doing a consumer survey for home buyers and renters. And ultimately what we were just trying to model is price points, expectations of amenities, health and wellness, social, everything she says is spot on. You know, John Burns Real Estate, those of us in the business understand their modeling and their research. A book, Big Shifts Ahead. It talks about all of these different cohorts and demographics and how they're moving through their life stages. And developers have paid close attention to that. And health and wellness is by far the #1 request. When you look at the engagement on our survey, you know, our consumer is searching for the lifestyle first, as Robert said. And when they find the proper lifestyle within the proper region and the proper price point, then they move down that sales funnel, and the transactional engagement with the sales teams, I have to believe, makes life so much easier. Putting information out about the lifestyle instead of just floor plans on your community website. And Robert's very familiar with this. I've heard him speak at IBS. At the end of the day, you have to position what's the community going to offer this consumer, and what's outside of the community as far as their proximity to airports for traveling to see family, what's outside of the community in proximity to healthcare and dining and entertainment and theater and things of that nature. Referencing the big shifts ahead, I mean, again, we've been in this business now for a while, and the baby boomer market will finally mature out in 2030, but it's 10,000 people every day who are retiring until 2030. Think about that. This has been going on for a long time. So that cohort and that demographic, if they were attuned to the markets and financials, they're a cash buyer. They are prepared to spend. They are prepared to make a transaction. It's just having all the tools in place with a proper CRM and marketing plan, a proper sales team on premises, online sales counselors, and then tracking the data to make sure that your spend is correct. And that's why we put this data together. We're not an ad agency. I had someone actually confuse us as an ad agency once. I said we generate this data and this content so that we can share information to reinforce our value as a viable solution.
Well, taking that data and research and knowing those are the amenities, Robert, how does Smart Touch incorporate that knowledge and trends in design and digital marketing?
Wow, I mean, that's our primary story, right? And right now, from a strategy standpoint, the classic momentum builder strategy wise for master plan communities is to plan events that will drive urgency for sales and get people on site and potentially already meeting their neighbors. And so you leverage, as you're progressing through your development plan, every amenity that you open. And so that's been our strategy with Amblebrook, supporting that in an effort along with the other agency, WIC, and Sarah's team, and just managing our transitions from one event or one reason to bring people together to another. And there's always, a component of weather that you have to manage as well. And then being able to then, as an agency, support back the transition back to the general audience and shift from those events to another. And then going into 2024, Amblebrook is I think very fortunate community that for the majority of the residents already has, I think, almost all of the amenities in, Sarah, 90%.
Right. Yep, no, they're in.
So you don't have to wait for like another 4 or 5 years for the clubhouse to be ready. It's there. And so for us, it's getting reasons to get people to come to Amblebrook, visit it. This is a place to live the lifestyle of being kind of on a campus of other people that are around in that fountain of youth, just like Sarah said, that want to continue to live experiences in life. And this has a lot to offer. And so that'll be our strategy moving forward. But like Ben said, like our MO has always been a consistent all lines in strategy to be found, be found first and foremost, to be able to use technology to retarget, to geofence, to be very strategic in how we re-engage our buyers. And so we're very intentional in our email campaigns, in which we not just have a drip email campaign series, but then we also have monthly emails that are created to update the folks in our database, that really create excitement about the lifestyle. And the big focus is about that. Yes, we'll have our builders and showcase them, but the lifestyle is the hero. That's what you're buying into when you buy in a community like Campbellbrook.
You know, in the past, we sometimes view an older audience as being technologically not as savvy as the younger generation, but we are seeing growing trends where active adults, retirees, pre-retirees are becoming more and more technologically savvy. So, Sarah, I want to ask you, given the rise of technology in real estate, um, how do you see this role evolving in the context of active adult living communities?
Well, I can tell you one thing, COVID really changed the game for us, especially with this buyer, but they rose to the occasion, right? So if they weren't technologically savvy, they became that. They got comfortable with Zoom meetings to
I
hear
know
about a
QR
community.
codes were a
Yep.
big push to get over, but now it seems to be commonplace.
That's right, commonplace. And we also, like for Amblebrook, we incorporated so we could continue programming and having events. We incorporated live streaming from a few of our rooms so that we could expand the audience to more people, but still have an event on campus, and somebody could still participate from their comfort of their home. So we essentially planned for the next pandemic, if you really think about it. So I think that this buyer only continues to get more savvy. And when I just, if a crystal ball, I mean, just in looking at the trends today, most everybody has some sort of smart device, multiple smart devices in their home. The builders are incorporating this into their products as well. I think that, you're going to start to see a rise of maybe even companies that come in, third-party company that is trying to, that will outfit the home with all kinds of smart devices. And I would venture to say, I mean, I would love to see that, a smart device hooks into whatever the developer has planned at their clubhouse, for example, and just lists off for the homeowner what's on their calendar for the day, what they could participate in at the clubhouse. Just like, some smart devices can give you your daily briefing, you could be, wake up and say, what's planned at the clubhouse today, and what can I sign up for? I could see that eventually happening, and this buyer profile just, is very comfortable with it and expects it because it's information at their fingertips, and it bridges the lifestyle with their current life.
So it really sounds like you're looking forward to seeing technology harden that sense of community and make it more accessible.
Yes. Yep.
Wonderful. Well, Ben,
I would add, Aaron, that I would not I guess underestimate what the effort and strategy that Sarah and the entire team has led throughout this year to really improve the web experience, which is never stop. And for this demographic, they have the same expectations that our 25 and 30-year-old buyers have. They're used to being on their phone and engaging with technology and having everything at their fingertips. And so right now we have really spent quite a good share of this year studying like the behavior, and then analyzing, and then making adjustments that we have just gotten evidence that have improved the experience on the site, which was what we were seeking. But it never stops, right? There'll be other widgets, there'll be new technologies that we need to offer, and that's one thing that I think I would recommend anybody listening to our podcast, that the website is the premier spot, and you never can settle. It's something that we intentionally challenge ourselves to find another area of improvement as a team.
I mean, that's always an interesting point about always evolving. And Ben, that kind of gets into a question I was going to pose to you in private communities is, you talked about the trajectory of private communities. What's the next step? How is private communities evolving with these growing trends in technology and so forth?
So Robert referenced a little while ago. We have been collecting an email list from consumers. Plenty of consumers hit our site and they're searching, but they don't know what they're searching for. So we give them an opportunity to join our newsletter list by opting in, and we manage that through can spam rules and make sure that we're keeping that as clean as possible. Reputation is very important to our list. I think that's why the quality of the consumer engagement is so strong. Our expansion of that list will then give us the opportunity to create premium placements in the newsletter. We also have dedicated sends that I think Robert referenced. And at the end of the day, when you're pushing this information to a consumer who's not even sure where they want to go or what they want to buy or what even their price point might be, it gives us a leg up. Our site is constantly changing as well. We just finished a major server upgrade to the backbone of our platform. We have behind the scenes of our website a robust reporting system. So not only can we share with the marketer who's putting a placement on our site, what we call a showcase or a feature page. It's a mini website within our website for that said community. But we can tell the consumer or the client every engagement that occurred, from page views, site visits, leads. We have reporting that shows you where the different states where they're registering from. So we believe in full disclosure of where your dollars are being spent with us, how it's performing. So if you don't stay on top of data reporting, if you don't stay on top of reporting in general to show why you're successful for your client, you're going to fail in this business. And then I'll finally say that we always take consumer engagement very seriously. We do a lot of testing and look for ways to make sure that the interaction from the consumer isn't confusing, categorizing states, categorizing regions within states, categorizing the amenities. Again, pickleball, I use that because it's an easy one. But there's an icon for a pickleball, and when people find their passion, whether it's pickleball or tennis or golf or whatever it might be, they're going to be driven to those passions. So we're always constantly, as Robert says, changing and tweaking how our site engages, and I think that that bodes well for us in the long term.
Wonderful. Well, the final question I want to pose to all of you is, for those marketers that are preparing for 2024 or developers thinking about an active adult community and creating a marketing and sales programming, what recommendations would you have for them? Robert, let's start with you.
Oh man, it's if you've got inventory and it's a commitment to driving demand, there's only one way to be found, right? And here's a common validation. Often when we work with, in particular, smaller clients that may not have the commitment to matching every sale back like Amblebrook does underneath Sarah's leadership, and it's consistently trying to validate it. But at the end of the day, we work with clients that the only advertising that they have is Google and Meta, which is Facebook, and perhaps a social page, but there's not really any traffic, and signage. That's it. And quite often, like, those clients second guess because they're not really doing the matchbacks. Is this really working? Well, where are your sales coming from? Because there's only one way to find you, and that's through Google or Facebook, or you drove in front of the property. That's it. And so my advocation is the commitment to the appropriate amount. Not every marketing program has the same amount of budget. It's what's appropriate with what kind of demand you have, what kind of competition, the volume of inventory. But really, for our audience, it's the commitment to stay visible and relevant, right? Everything starts with a search, in my opinion, when it comes to finding a home. And so you need to be found.
Ben, how about yourself? Any recommendations for going into 2024?
2024, again, my biggest recommendation, since I'm on one side of the fence Our job is to generate interest and leads and traffic. So not only can the consumer find a community on our site and directly engage by either filling out a form on our site, which was what we consider a sales lead, we pass that lead on real time. And then they can also directly call the client, the client community, or they can email directly. Be prepared to engage with that consumer the minute they engage. Have something in place that is going to show that you have people that are willing to engage and answer questions. Because the consumer that's on our site is also on Zillow, they're also on New Home Source, they're also on all these other platforms, and the evidence is there, and Robert has evidence within his platform that shows the sooner you get to that lead, the better chances you have of converting that lead into a sale. And then one point that I also heard earlier, invite people to your community. A lot of our leads are relocation buyers, but they're also within states. Regardless, invite them and they will come, as long as you're positioning yourself with the amenities and the price point and the lifestyle that they're looking for. Make sure you have platforms in place to engage those leads. And then last but not least, make sure you have a sales team that's willing to engage with them regularly and often and track them in a proper CRM like SmartTouch. And then that way you can really measure your success. The old days of sending sales lead to a sales rep with a sticky note and hoping that they're going to get back to them without collecting the data automatically being pushed into that CRM. Look how much money is being wasted in this industry doing those types of tactics. So Robert has those solutions. I think Sarah can validate that. And that's my recommendation.
Well, Sarah, for those that are kind of in a similar position as yours as a sales and marketing director of a development and primarily active adult, what recommendation would you have for them going into the 2024 year?
So I would say a couple of things. I would say don't underestimate your customer in terms of their education and their intelligence. They will rise to the occasion. That whatever tool that you put out there, they will rise and use it. So don't be afraid to use those, trending or new tools that, companies like SmartTouch or research like Private Communities puts out there. Embrace it and go for it. I think those are key things. I think also, don't be afraid. It is kind of, tacks on to what Ben was saying. Don't be afraid to engage. I mean, people like information and they like it in different formats, from website to to social to email marketing. Nobody is the same, and they like to receive their information as a newsletter or even as bullet points, sound like little sound bites. So I think be cognizant of that. And the last thing, and I feel like Amblebrook has done a really nice job of this, and I just would encourage others to do the same thing, is be authentic. And I think that starts with all of your marketing to all the way to your on-site sales team. So be transparent and be authentic in what you're offering.
Excellent. Well, I appreciate all of you guys, Ben, Sarah, Robert, for sharing this knowledge with our audience. And for those that are listening, I look forward to seeing you guys next time on the Market Pulse with SmartTouch. Thanks.
Thanks a lot.
Bye-bye.